It is with pleasure and gratitude that I stand here before you today in such an admirable gathering with aspirations for peace and coexistence. I am a Baha'i and come from Iran, a country in which Baha'is are extremely persecuted, under a regime that abuses the power of religion to further its own political agenda. Interestingly, Iran's recent history can be a case study of the impact of oppression of religious diversity in a multi-faith, multicultural society. One might think that due to the extreme persecution of religious minorities in Iran, not only religious practices of these minorities have become restricted, but also the relationship between various religions has suffered. However, I have personally witnessed glimpses of religious harmony and coexistence in the least likely of places in Iran. You might be aware that Baha'is are deprived access to higher education. In fact, I myself attended an underground university. It's a community-run university called Baha'i Institute for Higher Education. After earning a master's degree from McGill University, I returned back to Iran to teach psychology in the same university to Baha'i students. In 2011, I, along with many other Baha'i instructors and students, were arrested in what was the latest wave of attack of the Iranian regime on the university. Now, from the very moment one enters Evin prison, this is the infamous prison of Tehran in which Zahra Kazemi, the Canadian journalist, was tortured to death. The person should put on a blindfold to cover the eyes. This is done to disorient the person. So I couldn't see further than the tip of my toes. I was obviously disoriented and lost. And when I was pushed into my solitary confinement cell, I felt really sad, extremely lonely. I also felt worried about all the horrors that I had heard about Evin. But when I took the blindfold off my face, because in solitary confinement in the cell you can actually take it off. So when I took the blindfold off my face, the first thing I saw on the wall of my cell, right in front of me, was a verse of Baha'u'llah, the founder of the Baha'i faith, handwritten with large fonts on the wall. Seeing that just gave me a surge of energy and brought tears into my eyes. Another Baha'i had been here. So, not surprisingly, in the days to come, since I didn't have anything else to do, obviously, my cell walls turned into a book for me. I started reading all other handwritten notes. There were scripts of Quran, the holy book of Muslims, and also quotes of Zoroastrianism, one of the oldest religions in Iran, among other notes. There, in the darkest corners of a prison built by a totalitarian regime to crush the hopes of the people behind its walls, scripts of various religions were giving hope and strength to the prisoners of conscience. All the different religions coexisting in written form on the same walls. I've also personally heard many stories of how prisoners from different religions and belief backgrounds have developed deep feelings of respect for each other after spending long years together in prisons, finding an understanding of their shared beliefs. Baha'is have always been persecuted for their beliefs in Iran. However, these persecutions were extremely exacerbated after the Islamic Revolution of 1979. Hundreds of Baha'is were brutally killed or executed. Baha'is lost their jobs due to their religious beliefs, just like my dad lost his job as a supervisor in a big factory. Their children were constantly humiliated and systematically oppressed in schools as well, just like my sister was expelled from high school on multiple occasions due to being a Baha'i. More recently, the persecution of Baha'is have been worsened. Hundreds of small shops and businesses, the only remaining source of income for Baha'i families, have been shut down, and many Baha'is have been arrested and imprisoned. Since 2005, there have been more than 900 arrests, beyond 1,000 specific incidents of discrimination recorded. At this very moment, more than 130 Baha'is are in prisons across Iran, including a few dear friends of mine, all of whom are spending 4 to 10 years of their lives in prison. And of course, the hallmark of these arrests is the incarceration of the 7 leaders of the Baha'i community in Iran, called the Yaran Iran, sentenced to 20 years of imprisonment. This month, actually, is the 9th anniversary of their imprisonment. So it looks quite dim, right? But as all of us know, specifically here, all of us know and understand, even though these cruel acts of persecution are done in the name of political religion, we should never let these acts distract us from the truth that lies within the core of all religions. And that is the inherent unity of religions, and that true religion must be the source of unity and fellowship in the world. In my father's village, almost half of the people were Baha'i. The other half were Muslim, Shia Muslim. Even though there were some instances of conflict between these two groups for several decades before revolution, they lived in harmony and peace. My dad shares memories of how the Muslim community would cook for Baha'i events, while the Baha'is were obviously busy with their formal affairs. And Baha'is would cook for and participate in commemoration of Ashura and other Muslim events. And actually, one night per week, Muslims would come to the Baha'i center of the village and would drink tea and just share and chat and enjoy, just being together. Coexistence is not just an ideal for future. It has been felt and lived by people across the world, as it was lived in my dad's village. And coexistence does not necessarily die under the horrifying condition of oppression, because it has more power. Wherever the oppression happens, and in whatever form, the coexistence has more power. The coexistence might even thrive under oppression, as I felt and witnessed in Evin prison. Finally, coexistence is not only possible, but also a necessity for our world. And it is our word and acts that will help to bring it into existence. Thank you, Norma, for inviting us.